You're listening to Factual America.
How do you tell a story that is a story that affects us all? It's kind of you have to find a microcosm of that story, and you have to find the characters who are compelling characters who are going to take you emotionally through that journey. And in the process, you learn. So we began looking for those characters.
Exactly. And then what we found, was that every time we find an interesting thread or story it was people describing incredible stuff, but you couldn't really see any of it. And, film is a visual medium. It's like, and as filmmakers, we're always like, why is this a movie? Like, how is this story earned that it's a movie that we know how to make? And again, as to Jahan's point, it's like, we don't make films about topics. There's a lot of filmmakers who do, and I commend them, but that's not our method. Our method is a character on a journey that we can follow, that can personify an aspect of a story. But no character can ever, personify an entire topic, right? That there's no Square is not a film about the entire Arab Spring or even the Egyptian Revolution. It's just about three people's experience through it, right? That's the only truth that we know really how to do with our process. And so that's kind of where it went. And then when we met Carole Cadwalladr, it was like, meeting an old friend, we just like hit it off immediately. And it was all, we actually met in the train station, in a good John Le Carre fashion. It was quite, I came to London just to meet with her.
Yeah.
And told her what we were doing, and she was like, "Wow, you guys seem really ahead of this curve." She hadn't published the article yet, but about Wiley.
Okay.
One piece, and what Carole had done in her piece, even though she wasn't the first to write about Cambridge, she was the first to really tell. Hannes Gransinger had been the first one to write about the Cambridge Analytica story in a Das magazine article that then became a Motherboard. And it was a big article. It came out in December. And then Carole wrote in the following year a piece in the Observer Guardian where she really made the linkage of like trying to see like, wait, this is not a national problem. This is a transatlantic story. Mm-hmm. And when, because of her, brilliance and the way that she writes narrative through her journalism as well, you were able to see that this was a much more complicated thing because, and to make it more clear, is actually what Carole kind of provided, I think, was this idea that to understand Trump, we had to understand Brexit. And to understand Brexit, we had to understand Trump. And that these were two kind of stories that were interlinked. And and understanding why would a group of financiers support both? And wait, is this the new way that politics is being played, where we have shadow money, dark money coming into different elections? It's not even from the countries, trying to affect the outcomes, and using data analytics and using Facebook, which we had all signed up for and like we had our baby pictures on, to all of a sudden, micro-target the shit out of particular people with things that would drive them crazy, and rile the shit out of them to get them to have a very emotional state and affect their political leaning. And that it wasn't about, and that elections were no longer about speaking to an entire group of people. It wasn't one leader tells one nation a story. It was one leader tells every single voter the story that they want to hear and that only they see, and that is all that matters. And that the leader doesn't even have to be consistent because they can just send a message to each person individually, and not even be called out for saying completely opposing messages, because all these ads disappear on Facebook and Facebook feels it has no obligation to hold them, preserve them, or tell anybody who paid for it or anything. And all of this is happening because we accepted that these guys, these tech gods wear hoodies like this and that they must be nice guys. You look at them, they're harmless, right? So that was kind of what was going on, And then sorry, I kind of skipped ahead, but back to the train station. As you can see, this is why these films are made by really good editors who can
edit you.
Who can edit into a linear, cogent thing, and not just
fly all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah. But back to the train station. Carole and I hit it off. We had a kind of like, show me your cards, I'll show you mine. And then she's like, well, if you can stay a little longer, there's someone you should meet. And I was like, I can stay longer.
Yeah.
And I changed my flight. And then later that day, she took me to meet Chris Wiley. And then
she had more cards to show.
She had a lot more cards to show. I just had a lot of interesting ideas. But she had the cards.
She had the goods.
And I met Chris Wiley, and that, was a mind-blowing conversation. And he hadn't come forward yet, and he didn't have pink hair at the time.
Okay.
And some nice Lebanese takeout, and talked in London about everything for several hours. And I left that meeting, and I was both terrified and shocked and in awe of what I heard. And I was like, okay, this is a movie.